I'm an optimist, and so in 2018, when my friend gave me my first drive in a Tesla Model 3, I could see instantly how much better that experience was than driving the car I liked at the time, which was a Hyundai Sonata. And by August of 2018, we were buying our first EV, a Tesla Model S, a used one, a 2015 model. And even then, my only question was, how well can it road trip? So we picked it up in Chicago, drove it home. There was a learning curve, but it went well. That October, my brother and I gave it a better shake-up by driving over to Pikes Peak and going up the mountain there. And it was clear to me the driving experience was better. You can road trip in them. In a couple of years, everybody's going to be buying EVs, and all the auto manufacturers were saying they're going to have them out by 2020. And, well, things lagged a little bit. But because of the pandemic and other extenuating circumstances over the next couple of years, I still thought the revolution to EVs would be obvious to everyone, and the uptake would be a lot higher than 10% in 2025. And my optimism extended to charging infrastructure, which was going to be the Achilles heel for a lot of people moving to an EV. Or a lot of the cars were great, but maybe you couldn't charge them in a lot of places. And the supercharger network was pretty good, but needed some expansion back in 2018. And it's been improving, but not at the speed I'd like. We were supposed to get V3 superchargers. They made that announcement. It was a big hurrah. Really, in Minnesota, it took about a year and a half before we saw the first one installed. And by that point, they were talking about V4 superchargers, which, again, a year and a half later or so, we still don't have true V4 in Minnesota. And similarly, in those early days, we were hearing a lot of announcements from Electrify America, how they were expanding so fast. We saw moves by companies like Shell Recharge and Circle K, where it seemed like there was an initial boom, and then not much really became of it. EVgo was another one with big talk, and then a handful of stations showed up. And other than Tesla and Electrify America, really no one was covering the outstate areas, other than some ZEFnet chargers that some municipalities, colleges, or other businesses would install. So after a lot of slowdowns, missed deadlines, and products that never came to be, my optimism about the EV transition and the scale of infrastructure was really kind of crushed in the last couple of years. It's gonna happen, but instead of by 2020, now we're looking at by 2030, most people seem like they'll be on board. And at this point, that's still 4 years away. So to me, it's painfully slow when you know how good these cars are. So a couple years ago, when the partnership between a bunch of big automakers came together and called their new charging network they were going to create IONNA, I was super skeptical. I couldn't stand another batch of promises that just would never materialize, or just grab some headlines and then shut it down a couple months later. And they were in stealth mode for about a year, and it seemed like, yeah, they're just spinning their wheels. So, although a lot of people were getting excited about all these potential sites that they were hearing about, I was still pretty skeptical. And I thought, well, sure, like a lot of the other networks, it's going to be big on the coasts and the Midwest, the middle of the country. We're going to continue to be charging deserts. And if they come here, they might not work well or wouldn't be serviced, whatever. Pretty doom and gloom. But in the last year, I was hearing about more and more of these stations opening up. Again, thinking, well, that's good for the coasts. But I was hearing about places like Ohio and Pennsylvania and, little further inland areas. I was like, okay, that's good. That's good progress. And the reviews I was hearing were all pretty positive. So I was surprised in June when the first one opened up here in Minnesota. We went over as a family to check it out. It was easy to pay with a credit card. They had NACS handles and CCS. It worked on the first try, and I was pretty impressed. But again, that now skeptical side of me was saying, like, well, they ticked Minnesota off the box. They put one here, good for them. Let's see where it goes from here. But then later in the year and in December, there was a flurry of activity, and we've now got a handful of stations here. So today we're going to run around and check those out and see what it's like when IONNA Speed comes to Minnesota. our first stop is in Brooklyn Park, and we're here in a Hy-Vee parking lot, and let's get that charge started. Right here you can see step one is plug in your vehicle, and we won't do this for every stop. I just wanted to show you the basics if you haven't seen it before. Plug in first, pretty easy. So you can either pay with a card or an app, but they do not have their own app, so I'm guessing that would be a plug share, that kind of thing. It does put a hold on your card of $30. Once the payment's approved, we'll time this here. Normally I wouldn't make you wait through this, but pretty quickly it's preparing to charge. It does take a little longer than superchargers. Generally superchargers take 7 seconds to initiate the charge, so this communication is a little bit slower, but it's not too bad. And we're at a pretty high state of charge, so we're not going to see great speeds, but the price is right, and you can see charging detail with a graph. I also did not precondition, so I'm not surprised our speed is low. And everything, like, this is not a touch screen, so everything is done with the buttons here. 39 cents a kilowatt hour. So I think we're still in the holiday pricing, so that's a great price for fast charging. And I'll just stay connected here for a couple minutes to see if anything unusual happens, but you can stop your charge there, and it's all really pretty easy. The payment terminals work on every one I've tried so far. This was a few minutes later in the car. You can see we're still charging at a low rate, and that is because our battery temperature is low, because I didn't precondition coming here. So that was pretty easy. You can see we've got garbage cans, squeegees for doing the windshield. The stall I'm at even has a shovel left over from when they dug out from the snowstorm. Hopefully users wouldn't need to use that, but you never know. The last stall on the end is marked for handicap accessible, so to use that one last. Those are both CCS handles on that. This station has 5 pedestals, but 2 handles, and they both work at the same time. So 10 EVs can be charging at the same time. 3 of the pedestals are for CCS vehicles, so you can do 6 CCS vehicles. And the other 2 pedestals are for NACS, so up to 4 NACS vehicles. Again, you can swap that with adapters depending on what you have. This is my 3rd plug-in with an IONNA station. The first was when that earlier one opened in June. We'll go back there today. Worked fine. The next one was in Ohio or Pennsylvania, I can't remember which, but an easy road trip stop on our Boston trip. And here again, just easy, tap the card, you're off and rolling. Now here we've got the Hy-Vee, which can meet most of your needs. It's a grocery store, pharmacy, all that kind of stuff. And right here they've got a gas station style Hy-Vee with a Starbucks in it. A little walk away is a Chipotle and Taco Bell, if you want those for option. And at the end here, we'll check our active sessions. We got up to 79 in 20 minutes. Wow, I didn't think I was here that long. But we'll stop this. Nice that it asks you to check that you really want to disconnect. And we got a nice summary here at the end. So about 21 minutes while I yammered at the camera, and we're ready to move on. $5.34. We'll talk a little bit more about the type of stations they have at our next stop, which will be Lino Lake. Not a lot of space to get the tripod out here, but you can see we've got 4 stalls or 4 pedestals, so that's 8 stalls, 2 for NACS, and the rest are for CCS. So looks like everything's good here, but this is a fairly busy gas station, and although there is quite a bit in the Casey's, there are some other options if you cross the street, but the street is a little busy, so you might want to weigh that. And across the street we've got McDonald's, there's a Subway, in their ways are a Target and Kohl's, Starbucks, and Dairy Queen. Like Brooklyn Park, this is really close to the highway, so easy for travelers getting on and off the road. I think I left my dash cam on while I was in Lino Lakes recording, and you'll see that while that parking lot is small, there's also the potential conflict where the fueling truck shows up. It needs to back up into a very certain spot, and with that tight parking lot, it might get pretty close for people charging. Now, I think you could work around it if there were cars there, but I almost offered to move because I felt like I was in this way. So just something to keep in mind. Again, I think they can work around it, especially in nicer weather, but that is the downside of a small parking lot and a gas station location. The location we're headed to in Blaine is not open yet, so it confused the navigation when navigating to it. Took us into a residential neighborhood, but I'm sure that'll be fixed by the time it's open, and we'll be there in just a moment. I think the post from December was that the fences were up in Blaine, meaning construction had started. Well, now it looks like the fences are down and they're already powered up. I'm just going to share B-roll here because it's a little afternoon, and although there wasn't construction going on, some of the workers were still hanging out around the area, and I didn't want to be too invasive or have them think they needed to chase me off. I didn't really want to walk in the mud anyway. But actually from here, looks like the stations have power already. But obviously there's still some work to be done. But we're going to have 4 pedestals for CCS, 2 for NACS. And so that's 6 total, 12 spots for 12 EVs can charge at the same time. So this is going to be a nice location right next to El Norte Mexican restaurant. There's a quick trip over there. I'll try to get a better shot of it. And Caribou Coffee right across the way as well. This one looks like it's close to being open, little concrete work and a little cleanup, but should be nice when it's ready. But I was surprised that it looks like there's already power going to the units, so obviously they still need to do the pavement and probably a few more steps before it's actually up and running, but it looks like it's close, and it also looks like it's going to be a standalone charging spot. And it seems like IONNA is rolling out 3 different types of stations. The one that's kind of partnered with a business, I think that's more the style of like the Hy-Vee and maybe some of the gas stations. And then there's these that they're calling Rechargery relays, which seem to be just their own units, but nearby other businesses. I don't know that makes a ton of difference to consumers, but another thing they're going to try to do at a lot of stations is have, we saw the squeegees and the garbage in Brooklyn Park. They're also going to try to put canopies in as many of these places as they're able. And I think the strategy from other things I've seen from other people covering this has been that if they can get the stations in first, and the canopies might take a while, they're going to get the charging rolling and then worry about those other steps, those nice to haves afterward. And that to me is a good strategy. And here we are in White Bear Lake, and sorry if there's a lot of road noise. We are right off the interstate, so this is a really convenient spot. And here again, we've got 5 pedestals, with 3 of them being for CCS, so 6 CCS vehicles can charge, 2 NACS pedestals, so 4 NACS vehicles can charge. Nice to have a lot of options for garbage receptacles, and they've got the bins for washer fluid, but no squeegees, so either they haven't put those in yet or they've been swiped. But this is the first IONNA station that opened in Minnesota on July 1st. I just talked to the owner of Doc Sports Bar here, and I was hoping that they serve food, so that would be another option, but he said just drinks here. But we do have Culver's in the parking lot, so that's good for a fast food option. And across the interstate on this exit, there are a couple more things you may have seen as we pulled in. There's also a grocery store across the main road, Cub Foods, that is probably not worth the walk, but if you need something like that while you're in the area, probably not too bad to drive over there. There may be more food options there as well. But with this one turning on July 1st, it really shows you what they say about IONNA Speed, that we've now got 5 stations ready to go or almost ready to go here in January of 2026. Let's head on down to Oakdale and check out that last one. Well, it was nice to meet Tom, the Equinox owner, while we were there at the White Bear Lake location. Hi, Tom, if you're watching, if you were able to find the channel. He said he's had the Equinox for about a year and he's enjoying it. He's in the process of getting solar on his house and is going to get home charging installed. But in the meantime, he's really been enjoying using the IONNA station. Says his other go-to is the EV Go in, I'm blanking on where that one is, but it's not too far away, but he says that one's busy and not as reliable. So this is his preferred spot for now, and that's how it goes when things just work. So hopefully IONNA can keep up that reliability and get more repeat customers. I also want to apologize if at any point during this video I've said IONNA. It's the Minnesotan in me. We want to say everything with an O, you know, like a boat, but I'm trying to tone it down. And here in Oakdale, and I thought this one was open. It's very under construction still. The fences are still up. Looks like workers are still putting pieces together and things, but don't want to interfere with that. But like the others, I'm sure this one will be up and running quickly. This is in a Hy-Vee location, again, just off the interstate, and the site of the first Minnesota supercharger. So that's just down the side of the Hy-Vee. This is kind of right out front, right across from the little gas station that they have across the road. There's also a KFC and a Burger King, and it looks like a Caribou Coffee down there as well. But still, it's good progress, and I'm excited to see it. So as we head back down to the South Metro, I want to make a couple other quick points. One is that if you have an older Tesla, you will not be able to charge on those NACS stations at IONNA. They're using the CCS protocol, and so if your vehicle is not CCS compatible, so if your vehicle is older than 2021, I believe, and you haven't had the conversion to make it CCS compatible, you are not going to be able to use these. Stick with the superchargers. But if your Tesla was built mid-2021 or later, you should be fine. Shouldn't have any issues plugging into IONNA. And as we are heading into the South Metro, that's one minor complaint, but they're still young, so I'm going to give them a pass on this. But even with Tesla, it's been hard to get fast charging in the Southern Metro of the Twin Cities. And it would be great to see more stations open up down there. They're planned, but we'll see how long that actually takes to come to fruition. The other thing I knocked the other networks for was not having anything outstate other than Tesla and Electrify America. And obviously right now, IONNA is all clumped around the North Twin Cities area. So I'd love to see them expand, but again, it's still early. They've been in the state for 6 months. I think we can give them a pass for now, but that's something I want to keep an eye on moving forward. Are they just going to clump around the Twin Cities, or are we going to get more charging routes and more outstate destinations? Would love to see that. As the superchargers are opening up, they're getting more full. Electrify America stations can fill up, and so it would be great to give EV drivers more options in some of the popular destination or travel road places. But 6 months in, I can say I'm impressed, and IONNA has restored my faith in charging infrastructure. So let's see where we go from here. Let me know your thoughts below. Happy charging, happy road tripping, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.